So you want to stop talking?
Everybody's getting organized. They're getting serious.
So Charlie's here, Diane's here. Who else? Valerie's here.
Yeah, Becky Callagher and
Becky Allen
gentleman from the Wyndham Land Trust.
is on Zoom. Yep. Oh, okay. Good, Phil Rogers.
You know, looks like. I guess I'll volunteer to moderate. Let's. I don't know.
We don't have a.
Don't, not counting Charlie? No,
Well, you've got
we have four. That should be four. Not
All
that
it
we're
means
gonna
is-
vote on anything.
Yeah, all it means is you can't make motions and votes.
Sorry, I'm missing somebody.
We've got four members on the call that are board members, I believe. I don't see all the names showing up on my screen for some reason, but I didn't see anything on the agenda that said we had to be too worried about spending money either, so we can report.
Well, the agenda does say finances and motions.
Okay, now I got.
They'll put them off for next meeting. Okay, so I'm calling the meeting to order. 7:02. I'm still missing a person, I think. Who else is on here? Well, if they talk, I'll know. I don't, I think I'm still missing it.
We have Charlie,
It's Charlie,
Becky,
Becky.
Wyatt. Valerie, and Wyndham Land Trust.
Oh, right. That's Michael. Okay. So you're volunteering.
Oh,
today?
Lucille's coming in on Zoom right now, Karen.
Brian is volunteered to be moderator.
Are you ready?
Okay,
While Karen's making notes, do we have any corrections to the minutes of December 5th? I did not see anything. Anything from our Zoom folks out there? If there are no corrections, can we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve it.
Charlie,
Yeah.
David, your second, all right. We're very informal here.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, moving on to correspondence. Any correspondence, Karen?
Yeah, I just wanted you to know that I think I got a request to do another selectmen's update. And I don't know what I'm putting in that yet, but it didn't come to me directly, so I assume we're putting it in the selectmen's update. So if you have any ideas for things you want to be in there, send me an email. And then I've got support letters requested that we'll have to do, I think, by March 1st for the 12-town task force new grant, which I'll talk about later. And the Wyndham Land Trust Bull Hill parking, which Michael will talk about later. So that's it for correspondence. Now, finances, you have on the back of your agenda. We now have, without the turkey trot, because that was not finalized when this report was in, we have $7,690.67 available. And I think there are no outstanding bills at this point. And then the turkey trot with, after our contribution to the sound system, which is a slightly, it might be less.
Yeah, I was hoping Brian would have a final because we had decided. We hadn't finalized because there was an outstanding bill from Earthworks, which we've determined that was going to be a contribution, so he is able to finalize it. He also doesn't have the proper sound system contribution because I think he failed to include what Historical Society was contributing, and the number, if I recall correctly, was closer to 370. So
So we have approximately coming in from the Turkey Trot $3,000, which would give us a total of over $10,500 in the kitty right now. Now, under finances tonight, I just wanted, last year, we actually did it in April, but I thought if we wanted to do any of the motions for our predicted expenses like the Porta-John, that we should just take care of that now. If somebody wants to make a motion that we cover the Porta-John expense again from, I think it was, what did we do, April through November, I think.
I'd make that motion, but I will say also, well, I guess we got to go through discussion. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
For discussion, I've been checking that about every month or 6 weeks or so when I check the counter. And there's been some, the last time I was up there, I'd run out of paper. And so there's a couple of things that when we move forward, we should make sure that we know when it's going to happen. Most of us will remember that the last time we negotiated anything with that company, Leslie took care of the negotiation because they were doing most of the Porta-John rental anyway. But I think it's a welcome, people welcome that we have it there when they're out hiking or riding their bikes.
Well, I believe we made a motion last time to spend up to $800 for 8 months, and then what's the name of the company? Earthworks. They sort of don't, rather than pulling the Porta-John in and out of New Road area, they said they just leave it for the winter. So whether they're maintaining it with toilet paper, that remains to be seen, but
Yeah, they probably aren't.
they probably aren't, but they probably will if we say, we tell them again, we want to cover the expense of it, that we're paying for it and we're keeping it. So is there any more discussion? Do we want to take a vote?
Take a vote.
All right, all those in favor of the motion to
Spend up to $800.
spend up to $800 on the,
Did I figure that out right? 8 months?
for 8 months on the Porta-John rentals with Earthworks for the calendar year 2023.
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion is carried.
And then we have some carryover from last year, so I don't know if you want to do it now. I haven't figured out, but I thought we should just sort of renew the fact that we're going to spend money to reimburse for fuel and expendables for the equipment. And also, if we want to do another allotment for brochure reprints, and whether we want to do the $200 that I can just as out of pocket or petty cash.
What carryover do we have
I
from the
don't
fuel?
know. I mean, I haven't figured it out, but
Okay.
the.
And I haven't asked. I apologize. I haven't asked for a report.
Well, they don't, we'd have to go through all the minutes and see what we spent. Like, we allotted a certain amount for t-shirts and I only spent about half of that. And I don't know how much I've okayed for fuel out of the $200, So I'm just saying, let's renew without going backwards. Let's just say we are now in 2023 going to spend X amount of money, and then we know what we've already done for the year. And I'm not working on the fiscal year, I'm working on a calendar year
Right.
here.
I'll make a motion that we carry forward with sufficient funds to complete any projects, including buying gasoline and keeping things going on, regular projects.
We want to be more specific. So let's make a motion that we allot now, what we spend, maybe. Want to go up $300 for fuel and expendables. And
Can that just come out of petty cash?
well, then for unknown things, $200 petty cash that I can approve if somebody writes to me
Right.
and says, and then I have to go sign the paperwork and
Right.
everything. So
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
do you want to just say five? Well, let's say what it's for. So
Yeah.
$300 for expendables, and we could say brochures or expendables if we want. And then if we need more, we can vote for it
Sure.
again.
Yeah.
Okay. So Charlie, have you amended your motion?
Yes, just exactly what you said, 300 for expendables and 200 for petty cash as needed to keep our projects going.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
You're not loud enough.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye,
Aye,
Aye.
Thank you.
opposed? Motion's carried.
Okay, and
Did you need the petty cash as well?
I'm making it one motion.
Okay,
All right, 300 and 200 as a single motion.
all right.
Yeah.
Anything else or finances specific?
as I said, I didn't get any reports. I knew the meeting was coming up, but I never thought.
I'll send it to you. I got the reports.
Good. So, but you already said we've got like $10,000. I don't know, did we expend out or what happened to the money we set aside for the bike repair stand? Did that go back to the town hall or I don't know, there was something weird about that. We couldn't.
For the bike stuff, we didn't spend it yet.
Oh, but they took it back because of their.
No,
fin-
No, no,
not
not from
from
us.
trails, from EDC.
They
Ah,
can't
okay.
take our money because it was privately raised. And part of the budget, they took back the money that the
You're correct.
EDC had set aside, and that is what has delayed
You're
the
correct. Thank you.
progress on that. Plus, we don't really need it yet.
Thank you.
Yeah, we put that, we put that money that was requested back into the budget request for this coming fiscal year, so assuming that it gets approved, that should be able to roll forward in the next fiscal year, just after July 1 now.
Okay.
All right, if finances are done, are we,
Well, I forgot to put on here changes to the agenda.
okay?
All right, so changes to the agenda. I would just like to introduce Kevin Fijol, who is officially, well, almost officially a new member of the committee. He has submitted his application to the selectman's office and they are going to vote on it, I think tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, it's on the
Yeah,
agenda for
yeah.
tomorrow.
What's your last name, Kevin?
Fijol, Fijol.
Oh, that's easy enough. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
And actually, I have an application for you, but I put in the mailbox. I'll give it to you if you want to do it officially.
Sure,
So Sandra,
yeah, Sandra, yes.
You join the committee? I'll give you an application too. So anyway, and so slight changes to the agenda. Hopefully, when we get up to trail updates, then Michael from Wyndham Land Trust is it's under the trail update, so we'll get there.
Yeah.
That's a change to the agenda. Okay,
How did we get up to a 10,000 on the balance?
the turkey trot's going to be added to that,
That's
about 3,000.
If you wanted to look at it, although I don't have copies, this is
I have-
the rough breakdown of the turkey trot financials.
I didn't make a copy for everyone. I figured no paper.
Okay. Citizens' comments.
Sorry?
Citizens' comments? Would you? No,
I'm the only citizen.
No.
no, we have citizens online as well. Any citizen comments online from the Zoom group?
You can either raise your hand or take yourself off mute.
I'm trying. Hello, this is.
Hello.
I just wanted to let everyone know that Spring Outdoors is going to be a printed type brochure, nothing as fancy as Walktober, but we have over 50 walks and the deadline was for today. But if there's anybody that has anything, I'm sure that we can squeak it in if we get it in like quick. And if we don't get it in quick, it will still be put up on the website like it has been in the past. But we're giving a printed copy a try this year.
Well, and did John come up with anything yet? I know he was soliciting opinions, but I didn't have any thoughts.
I am not in that circle of knowing what came in and what didn't, and I'm presently not working at the office. So I'm kind of out of the loop, but I wanted to let the group know that we're still accepting things as quickly as we can get them in, because like the deadline was today.
Right, John sent me the deadline was today. I just got the email, but I mean, he talked about wanting to do maybe something on the river. But he's not here, and so I think it will just have to, if we can pull it together, a boat ride, because he was worried about shuttling people back and forth, so we're still talking about that. So we don't know if that's gonna happen yet. So we'll end up being on the web this year again, but we won't make the printed version.
Okay, and if you want to pass along to John, depending on the when he has it planned, I'd be more than happy to work with him.
Okay,
And Diane, I'd like to make a suggestion about the brochure. And it's because of the maps that the airline trail put out with the QR codes on it. I get a lot of really good response on that. And if you have the paper out there and it's got a link to your website, then people will maybe pick one up in a restaurant and find out, hey, there's 3 other things going on too.
Good idea.
Well, it worked for us, so I just thought I remembered it.
All right, moving on then.
any other citizens comments?
I
Becky,
don't think so.
anybody?
No.
Okay.
Moving on to events, Spring Outdoors and Trails Day.
All right, so we just covered spring outdoors.
Yep.
I don't know if Paul wanted to do anything up at the train wreck site or not, so,
Yeah, our key people for these events are Paul and John, and they're not with us today.
right.
And I also have something that I'm trying to draw together, but I'll put that up on their website if I do.
Well, if it's gonna be through trails, like talk to,
Yeah, okay.
everybody, the helpers.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Well, right now, I don't have
Now,
anything.
Kevin is very interested in bicycling.
Hello, Kevin. I need somebody to motivate me.
Okay.
He's our
So do
guy.
I.
Speaking of bicycling, it's not down here as an event, but Charlie, you might want to update us on the Natchog Epic that's coming up next month, right?
Yeah, that'll be the last Sunday of March. And this year, there's also going to be activities on the Saturday before. I don't know the details on that. I'm really not on that committees for that. But they've already got, I think, 450, 480, something like that already registered. It is really quickly taking place on calendars of serious gravel bike trail riders. So it's a good thing. And oh, by the way, they're probably going to be coming right up over the top of Windham Hill, and they're going to want to park some cars in the new parking lot. But
Yeah.
that's coming along. It's coming along, and there'll be more opportunities for economic input and for our own involvement. We'll let you know.
Charlie, are you talking Bull Hill?
Bull Hill.
Okay, there's a parking lot up there now?
There's going to be. I think that's what the Wyndham Land Trust is going to be.
Michael will be talking
I
about
guess
that,
we will be
yes.
talking about that then. All right.
Just before you move on from events, it's
No, I'm
not,
not moving on from them yet.
oh, okay, all right, I was gonna say, it's not on the, one of the 2 listed, but if Trails wants to sell T-shirts at Maker Faire, that's the first Saturday in May, which is the 6th, I just looked at it, 6th of May. Double check that and make sure I didn't screw that up. Yeah, Saturday, May 6th, with the rain date, I believe they decided on the rain date would be the next day, the Sunday, instead of the following Saturday. I think they decided that was a better strategy.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna put that on the agenda for April to find out who's gonna sit there.
Charlie, back to the Natchog, did they need any other volunteers? I know I had told you I could probably do the street crossing. I don't know if you're looking for anyone else.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any word back on that. There was a lot of discussion on it a couple of months ago, and then I haven't heard anything back since, but I
Okay,
will
keep,
be
keep me
shaking.
in the loop anyway, if you need me. I don't know if Kevin or someone might be interested if they need help on.
Yeah, I can look into it. What is it called
The
again?
Natchog Epic.
Epic.
It will be starting at the Thompson Speedway the morning of the last Sunday of the month. And the crossing guards that were just mentioned will be at key intersections heading away from the speedway. So that for the safety of the riders and to alert traffic. I don't know all the details. I haven't read anything lately from it.
As far as the other event, we often talk about the RimaCon. I had mentioned last week, I think to Tara, that my wife was looking on the Hartford Marathon's page. And as of now, they are not planning or don't have definite plans in place to do the RimaCon this year.
Ooh.
I don't know how set in stone that is, or there's just a change in personnel running it.
That runs at the end of August, right?
Yeah, that's not till August, so there's still
No,
time.
yeah.
Takes a while to organize that, so. That brings me up with Turkey Trot, and again, we talked about the financials. We had our wrap up and beginning meeting last Thursday. We talked, I've got some notes here for some ideas for the new year. It was suggested that we might offer some type of gift bag, goodie bag, but we kind of felt like that would add a lot to preparation. Adding a non-binary category for those that do not wish to run as male or female, but not specifying ages. Possibly looking into our mile/kilometer marker sponsors, where we mark off each kilometer on the trail, and much like you might have a green sponsor at a golf tournament, might be another way to raise money, or even just utilize that for someone like WT Rich, who is $1,000 sponsor and doesn't get any of the recognition of being a major sponsor. So we might not make more, but we might give some more recognition to a major sponsor as a result. Possibly involving one of our new members of Trails that Karen brought up, that might help us coordinate tasks and maybe take a little bit of the workload off of the recreation department, since they do so much for Turkey Trot, but also have so much going on and are often dependent on free time from their intern, which they may or may not have on any particular year. So as you guys become official members, we would appreciate, now you volunteered for me last year, right? Yeah, you were there. So certainly anything that you can do or be willing to do, we can help teach you what we need or what we can do. And we'd certainly welcome the extra help, as it is our major fundraiser. We talked a little bit more about sending save the dates to the school's athletic directors in a more timely fashion, and maybe getting involved to Webster and possibly Rhode Island. When I was checking where people were coming from, we did have runners from Massachusetts. We did not have a single participant from Rhode Island, which seems crazy being right adjacent to Thompson. We are likely going to allow dogs to participate with their owners on the walk. And the suggestion was made to add to the fun part of it, maybe having a dog costume party as well, where we can recognize a dressed up dog.
What were you drinking at that?
I don't know. What were you having, Karen? No, that was Joanne. She was the only. Joanne was the only one that had a glass of wine, and that was her idea. And
Yeah, like you wouldn't dress your dogs up in a New York Minute if you had a chance.
My
to
dogs
get recognized.
do
for it.
not dress up. And Amanda could not attend, but we want to look earlier at corporate sponsorships and corporate websites, because that's something that we often leave to the last minute and don't even approach things. Apparently a There's some franchisees who live in Thompson, like the one who owns Duncan. And involving dogs might give us more of an in with local veterinarian services as well as runnings for possible sponsorship. So those are some things we discussed. We had, as a result of last meeting, had our conversation with Teague, and Ann Miller was very gracious to agree to change where our money is going, and it will be split 3 ways. So this past year, they will get their full contribution of almost $6,900. But because rec department and trails often are more in need of money, as not either not having town funding or having insufficient funding for the programs, she was more than happy to call it a 3-way split. So although we're bringing in about 3,000 this past year, if we had that split, trail share would have been closer to 5,000. So I'm hoping that our share will exceed 5,000 for this coming year, which certainly gives us some flexibility. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about our 2023 goals.
Now, I just want to explain for new people who
Yep.
don't know that Teague was getting half over these years, but what we also find is when we do fundraising, people are going, well, I already gave to Teague and we can't ask them for more. So this is a little bit to compensate for who's doing most of the work anyway.
No, I say he does
Yeah,
most
well,
of the work.
Becky's doing a lot of the work.
Yeah. So any questions about turkey trot, especially from Sandra or Kevin? Are you familiar with it? And
Yeah, I know about it. I know people that have done it in the past.
okay. And you
It was a lot of
helped
fun.
us. You did have fun
It was
in
cold.
the rain, in the cold.
It was great. It was fun.
Yeah, Brian, I just wanted to know if there were any questions, so of
Yep.
course. Anybody figure out how long of a distance it would be if we ran up and over the bridge that just went in and back down the other side? Yeah, it's a long way around, but if they ran all the way around that, or all that distance.
Yeah, I don't think that would come close to being able to do a 5K, and I really.
No, I'm thinking it'd be
Plan it.
10 to 15K.
I'm not thinking of that for this year, but you raise a point that maybe it's something that we could add a 10K.
Kind of like that.
I would consider that if the trail looked like it will work, and if USACE and the Rangers were amenable to that. Obviously, it's their land and they have to approve of it.
Yeah, it's just a thought, you can't call it an Iron Man, but we could probably call it, I don't know, the Rusty Human or the, okay, just don't ask me if I have questions. I'm sure I'll find one.
And Brian, did the Army Corps okay the date we talked about?
She did not get back to me today. The Army Corps did contact us today because they're waiting for the final financials. I explained why we didn't have them yet and that we were resolving that. I let Brian Levency know that we needed the final numbers out to them, and she wanted to approve our date choice, which is tentatively November 12th this year. But of course, they have to make sure there's no conflicts before they issue a permit, and they will not issue a permit until they have our financials from the previous year. And I don't blame them. They are late for the second straight year. So we need to do a better job of that. Okay.
Well, when you say that late, when do they expect it by the end of the year?
Usually we know by the beginning of December, because 3 years ago, when we still had Leslie in charge, we gave the presentation check to Teague in December, and last year it didn't happen till I think March, or no, I think it happened early summer. Because the weather was nice by then, or late spring, and it hasn't happened yet this year. Last year was a holdup with one of the major contributors checks, which we knew was coming, but we didn't actually have it in hand, so we couldn't put the numbers to rest. Okay, on to trail updates. Airline State Park Trail,
We have updates.
we have updates.
Woo-hoo. And actually, for the benefit of the people online, I'm just gonna screen share because I have copies of these in the room. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Just gonna pull the right one up. So Daniel Blanchett of J&D has been working on the master site plan as a part of the grant we were awarded. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. And I have the hard copies here, but here we go. Here is a screen copy of plan for the parking area and some of the traffic calming. So I'm going to leave that up on the screen, but then the rest of us can actually come look at the paper, which is probably even easier. Here. So the one on the screen is the what Daniel and I, after looking at a couple of options, came up with for the parking area that includes the trailers. For those of you looking at it on the screen, you can sort of see where it says proposed walking trail there. Right above that is a private lot. It turns out that in that area, which is close to where they had originally proposed the trailer parking, there's actually an easement for a right-of-way for a gravel driveway to that person's lot. They otherwise are landlocked, so we had to move that trailer parking based on this survey. So you see it's now closer to where the road is, and across from it, you'll see a few more parking spots indicated. Some of those are probably going to come out. The turning radiuses work if they're there. For the trailers, but you never know if somebody's going to freak out of the presence of another car, so we can easily lose, 2 or 3 of those to allow even more generous turning radii for the trailers. What you can't see quite as clearly, oh yeah, you can see it at the top of the screen. We're proposing an installed raised crosswalk, and then you can also see some of the stormwater management LID stuff right in the center there. And what is off the screen for the people looking on Zoom, but off to the left is a spot where we're holding, it says playground or gazebo, but that would be the welcome kiosk we've been talking about. So you can also see where it says proposed walking trail. That actually would pick up from where the crosswalk is planned for the side of the trail that leads to the tri-state marker.
So that is, right now, this is where the gate is.
I think
This is
so.
where the
I
trail
believe,
goes.
I believe
Okay.
so. So it makes better continuity, because in the other plans that walking trail actually cut through the parking area. So this is actually much more walker friendly.
So right now, the parking area is kind of where the trail is right now, and that takes a walking trail around it. Like this trail comes straight through here.
Yes. Yeah, well, there's trees here that get
Right,
in that top area on the screen, or top leftish, top leftish, where all those parking spaces are. That's all a tree covered area right now. So there would be great tree cutting and grading associated with that. And then the other thing that we did.
So this curly thing, that's where the existing trail is.
That stormwater basin is, it's kind of in the area where the Porta John is now. That's going to be a challenge to keep people from driving into it, but they just seem to want to do that anyway, though.
I don't think there's gonna be any challenge to people driving in there, because there's not gonna be any access. If you look at where near the bottom of the screen there, that's where people are gonna be turning in. So that's all gonna get essentially grassed or something.
so are they no longer turning into the present parking lot? Is this still
So
a
here's.
gravel parking lot, or is it all the parking coming through this new?
All the parking is coming through. That was one of the things we
So-
wanted to offer, a single entry exit.
Yeah, and we're avoiding the parking coming in on that S turn, which is.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Looks like a much safer way to enter that, especially with the traffic coming south out of Massachusetts and down. They come fast.
Yes, and some of the things that are adding, there, including the raised crosswalk, we're also talking about, and he hadn't put that on this plan yet. Essentially optical illusion, traffic calming, painted markings that narrow the road coming into that area. Because as your surface is perceived to narrow, you naturally tend, most normal people naturally tend to slow down. I mean, well, there's always going to be people who behave badly, right? But normal people respond to visual cues. So as the road narrows, it's like a nudge to slow down into that.
If we can get the type of signing they have at that Putnam intersection too, that really makes it pretty clear.
Mhm.
Any comments on since you're really the horse guy in the group on.
Well, first of all, there's only one entry and exit, so trailers coming would have to come back out same way.
Yeah, so when I talked to the engineer who drew it, he said there is plenty of turning radius here.
But by turning, you mean completely turning around to go back out there.
Or you have to drive in and back
Driving
out.
in, pulling in, and then backing up here, or driving up and pulling in.
So in other words, I couldn't
You
park
can do
there,
it either way.
I can't back up the trailer, but somebody else that's more experienced could do that successfully.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
So there's
because,
plenty-
because of that, that's why I said, hey, let's get rid of some of these. Because a less experienced trailer driver, even though the turning radii may work on paper. Somebody who's not confident might be freaked out by that,
So essentially, this is gonna be the parking, this long street, not this shorter one.
yeah,
But
for
there's a
cars.
piece here.
When you first said radius, I just thought you meant pulling back out or something, that people would be freaked out by it. That makes a lot more sense, and there definitely should be enough room there.
Hold on, I'm trying to read
Makes
this
sense.
comment that's here in the chat. Hold on. Oops,
Where horses
Is that
to be
a comment?
tied to a trailer.
no, there's a comment in there, I just have to go to the other side of my. What about those people?
Currently, the people who own that,
Yeah,
how do they get in there now?
apparently they have a right-of-way easement across what's indicated as a gravel driveway there. It's otherwise a landlocked parcel. That's all I
just a
can
lot.
tell you.
That's not the house, that's behind the other house, so. if I'm
Okay,
understanding.
so Valerie, I'm reading your comment now. I know we aren't in citizens' comments, but could you discuss more about the trailer parking? And where horses are to be tied to the trailer? How much space between trailers, room to drop a ramp, unload, space size and egress, please? Valerie, I don't know that I have enough confidence in reading plans to tell you some of those details. I can send those questions to J&D and ask for answers and send them to you. I certainly wouldn't want to tell you anything incorrect.
It does make sense to have an experienced horse equestrian talking to Daniel about the problems they're facing. Becky's also talking about it. Comment just popped up.
You have a ruler?
Huh? Do I have a ruler? This is probably one on my desk. It's usually one on my desk. Possible to get a copy. There should be a scale on, yeah, there's probably a scale on that one, actually. Let me see what the scale says, Becky. Scale
Okay,
is,
1 inch is 20 feet,
where do you see that?
that's mine.
There you go. One inch equals 20 feet.
So you've got 50 feet long for each trailer space and about 12 feet wide, I'm gonna say. It's kind
No,
of
it's
tight.
gotta
for
be
width.
wider than 12.
1 inch is 20 feet. And they're only showing a little over ½ inch here.
That's about 10 feet.
So it's kind of tight to fit 3 in there.
Did with the horses tied off to the side.
So
Back you-
Valerie, according to what Brian is measuring, they are, what'd you say, 50 feet
50
long?
feet long.
So the length doesn't seem to be at issue, but possibly the width.
Yep.
And do you know what your standard width is? Or what width yours is? Is it standard?
I don't know. It looks to me, well, years ago, had a commercial driver's license and learning how to drive the truck. Backing a trailer into that area is the optimal because you can drive in off the road, pull straight in and then back in on the side where the driver is. So that's optimal. I don't know the width of those 3 stalls for trailer parking, but then when you drive out, it's easy to drive out of there and run out onto
It's
the
really
street.
easy to park and pull out, but
Yeah,
You have,
it's the optimal design for parking.
parking space, so that would hold a truck and a trailer widthwise. With a little room to
but again,
spare.
if you have.
I'll send, Valerie, why don't you
horses,
send me your questions to my email, because it's easier for me to
Stop.
forward them to J&D out of there.
Tacking up and stuff.
Yeah.
you have the parking part right, so it's not a blind backup, so that's good. Under the equestrian design guidebook for trails, trailheads and campgrounds from the US Forest Service. Your truck is 8 foot wide. To open up the door, that's covering 4 feet. If you tie a horse off to the side, that takes up 12 feet. So between the 8 and the 12 feet, you need at least 20 feet for width, bare minimum.
Becky, could you also send me those comments in an email to planner@thompsonct.org, and I'll forward them to the engineer?
Yeah, I'll actually make a copy of this page.
Okay.
For you and send it.
I mean, I'm sure that he has design guidelines for vehicles, which would include, in this case, horse trailers.
You might just be thinking about parking, and parking, you could do it.
Right, so we'll just make sure that we have room for everything that's been observed here.
What was that email again?
Planner.
Yep.
@thompsonct.org.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then the other piece that we have is the boundary survey for where the turntable is meant to go. And this is something that I need to present to the butlers for what the final strategy is for this parcel. They own it right now. It's a part of a larger parcel, which has, I don't know, 150 or something acres. But let me switch it to the other for these guys to see. But that's where the turntable is. So we've been talking all along. So we've been talking all along, and I have spoken certainly in the abstract to the butlers about getting this part. What you'll see on the screen is parcel A, which is 1.01 acres. Acquiring it from the butlers, the town holding it until we can transfer it to deep. Now, that hasn't been finalized yet. The butlers haven't agreed to it. We're trying to set a time when we can discuss it. We do have money built into the trails grant for legal fees and acquisition costs. Not a ton of money, but money. To me, that's the only thing that makes sense. I mean, I can tell you that if I were the butlers, even though we have a memorandum of understanding to do the work on the turntable in the short period of time, I would not be happy to have like members of the public on my private property from a liability standpoint. And from the town standpoint, it would be totally stupid to own a 1 acre landlocked triangle that is really part of a state park. So I think everybody sort of agrees in principle, but like I say, the butlers haven't agreed to that formally yet, so I've got to talk to them about that more. And we haven't set that meeting up yet, but you can see there the center of the turntable has been located. The stones are already in place there. They've been in place for a while. There's some temporary fencing up to sort of hide them from the public. So the things that are gonna get done on the current grant. The has given us the money for this design work and the boundary survey and everything. Legal fees and acquisition costs for this thing, parcel A. The rest of the money associated with that grant award is gonna go into the construction of the turntable. And then by the end of February, beginning of March, I'm gonna resubmit to the same grant program to try to do most of the rest of it. But I did, and I haven't seen Daniel's final cost estimates based on these plans yet. I'm expecting them any day, but based on what I have from last year, I think the maximum that we're gonna be able to do, even if we get a full award for what I'm able to match for out of the remaining ARPA funds, is gonna be the parking lot, the traffic calming, and the picnic pavilion, but not the welcome kiosk. The welcome kiosk was a surprisingly high ticket item in that estimate as I was looking at it. And I can't really think of any way I can cobble that together. Last year I had an extra $55,000 that I could play with of in kind because of the value of the turntable stones, but those have now already been dropped. So I can't really apply that to this grant. So that's what's gonna cut the welcome center out. Regardless, assuming that Deep awards the rest of the money now, which I don't know, I'm pretty hopeful that they will.
It's their part.
It's their part, I know, but they're not gonna build it.
I know.
So that's what we got.
Going back to this, I see that I was wondering about the right of way and I see no records found of the right of way. What about the use of that for logging or rod and gun or wherever it's presently
Well,
driving through there?
So what they can't see on the screen, but we can see here is right above that triangle. It does indicate that's Thompson Rod and Gun Club's property. That dirt road that you see, I believe, does have some kind of easement in their favor, but apparently Daniel was not able to find any record of it.
Because that's going right through the triangle.
It is, so just whatever final disposition has to, I mean, it's already crossing the state property.
Okay. And on this.
But wait,
go ahead.
on that, that road didn't give Butler's access also?
No,
No, okay.
no, it's on the other side of the 5 Mile River from, well, although Butler's owns parcel A, most of their property is on the other side of the 5 Mile River. This little road used to go up, maybe all the way up to a farm at Webster. The Rod and Gun Club owns most of that farm. Some of the other parcels are landlocked. And recently, one of those owners of the small landlocked parcels wanted to timber it off. And the Rod and Gun Club and the Butlers both denied him access on that right of way. So that's the most recent activity I know about that the guy couldn't get in there. The last time he went in and timbered out, he made a bad neighbor out of himself. And this time they didn't want to help him out.
Yeah, so in terms of, I think it was your question, Karen, and the existing dirt road that leads up to the Rod and Gun Club. I mean, this is just the boundary survey, right? So in the final design of the site itself, just we have to be aware that they need to have access across that. So we can't use that corner of the triangle for anything.
Okay, when I walked out there, I thought that was also where the Butlers were getting to their property, but it's not. Okay.
See this.
Mhm.
All right.
Do we know on this how close we're getting to the first residential property when we start building down this way? And
Well,
that gonna be a concern?
It's a concern.
yeah, these attach,
They're different scales, though.
are they different
Yeah,
scales?
that's 1 inch is 40
Oh, yeah.
feet, this is 20 feet.
All right, so they are different scales, but you can still generally see, right? So here's a residential parcel, here's a residential parcel.
But over here, and I only say because I know it's my dog trainer. And she often complains about the trail, so I'm just wondering if, what we're gonna run into if we get too close. Cause she has the first house along East Thompson Road after this wooded area.
Well, all of our work and construction, grading, whatever, is not on the road side, it's on the wooded
Mhm.
side, up until you get to the parking lot itself. I mean, the state park boundaries are the state park boundaries, those aren't gonna change.
Mhm.
So everything we're doing is, you know, here to here. So there's this house, which is the one with that mysterious right-of-way easement, but Daniel accommodated for that by moving the trailer parking down here. I mean,
I just know we're going further in this way, and she says she's gonna move anyway, but every time we talk about the trail, she complains about people on the trail and, you know, we just wanna be, we've talked about these residences, I just wanna make sure we're taking into account any sensitivities adjacent to what we're doing.
well, I mean, does she have specific complaints that maybe have remedies? Like fencing, or, I mean, because
I'm
we
sure
don't know what
she has a lot-
specific complaints
she
are, we
doesn't-
can't just-
Like people talking to her dogs or bringing their dogs down to her dogs. And if there were fencing and hedging or something that would segregate her property better, that could resolve any issues that might come up if she's still there and if she is concerned, we'll say.
Well, the best option in that case might actually be to go to the state and say, this is your property and you want to be a good neighbor, some stockade fencing might be appropriate. I don't have any room to add that to our plans.
No, and we shouldn't. Again, I'm just trying to anticipate.
Yeah, but they've got, I mean, if neighbors have a specific complaint, they've got to share that complaint with us.
Well, when you talk to Daniel about the trailer size,
Yeah,
I think at some point we talked about the entrance being not across from somebody's driveway, because if they start backing into, you know, whether this neighbor is gonna be, I thought we were gonna try to get this entrance between the two driveways, so it wasn't.
so the only thing I could suggest here is where the mouth is here, and I see what you're saying, where it's right across.
Yeah,
Move it over, especially if we're losing these parking spots here. Have the entryway be the same width, but here, so it is offset a little bit. It's never gonna get fully offset. But you could have this same width, still have the right angle entry.
I was thinking more this way. I mean, what if the trailer, well, you don't wanna back into the road.
You don't want to cut into the trailer space.
No, what I was thinking, right, but what's happening here, can this go down?
All right, well, send me any questions that you have based on this that I should share with Daniel. I mean, that's, because if he's gonna make any changes to this plan, we want to do it relatively quickly, because I have to submit a grant.
Is there any objection to coming into the back here? They
Well, that
could
solves the
drive in,
problem.
drop off.
That solves the problem
I'll
for the
drive
trailers,
out.
but you still need this entrance for the parking.
Well,
Then
that's
you-
all right, I'm not concerned too many cars.
No, you got this turnaround back in.
So why don't I do this? Why don't I email you guys a copy of this? And then send me back any questions or observations based on this, which I can then send to Daniel. I mean, some of the answers might be, no, we can't do that, but we don't know until we ask.
Along the line of what David was saying, you were saying you were trying just to have the one entry exit point. Is there any objection to having a second if it works?
Okay, well, that's another question I can ask.
So if you had another way in here. I don't know, that could even lead to here as well as making this just a drive-in.
That would be
drive-out.
ideal for trailers.
Hmm.
Then you
Alright, so
wouldn't need as
I'll
much.
send copies of these, mark it up, put questions on it, scan it, send it back to me, whatever, and I'll send them all to Dan. We'll find out one way or the other what can be done. Okay. Progress, I love progress.
All right, so anything else on the airlines? State park for updates?
Well, I moved the 12-town task force up into this section.
Okay,
I'll just try to do a quick report, but there were like 4-hour-long meetings in January. Just to clarify for people, when they started the 12-town task force, and we thought that it was a task force that was happening back before COVID. It fell apart during COVID and it didn't become a working body, and Jean Davis has sort of taken over and she's done a fantastic amount of work. But what we are now at a point where it is the end of the grant period. And she is retiring. And so now we are really at the point where a 12-town permanent task force, 12 towns on the airline trail has to be formed. There is a meeting on the 13th, a Zoom or in person. And is trying to recruit people from all the 12 towns. Mostly, we're an exception as a volunteer group. Tira is our representative, one of, but all the other towns, either somebody from the highway department, somebody from planning, a select person, is the ones that are going to be on this task force. A couple of towns haven't signed up, bought in yet. She needs all 12 towns. She is going to apply for another grant, which we need to support by March 1st. But the things that have to happen to make this task force happen is a commitment from all 12 towns, grant money to continue at least the next phase of this formation. And there is a website that's been developed, and there is nobody to like be the fiduciary to handle the money to keep the website up. So we need a fiduciary, which could be one of the towns, or Jean's looking into whether it can still be RC&D, that is what she's working under right now. So if anybody else, John's expressed an interest in being more involved in the 12-town task force. And if anybody else wants to get more involved, they should speak up. This meeting is happening. Are you going to go in person or Zoom? It is happening next
I haven't decided.
Monday in the middle of the day. And it's in Wyndham.
Unless something urgent comes up or I end up getting unavoidable meetings during the day stacked up, I will probably go in person. I mean, I'm on the council for Connecticut RC&D and the town's main representative to this project, so I probably should be there in person, but I can't say for certain until my calendar is firmed up for next week, for sure.
So unless somebody has an objection, I don't think we need a motion, but when we draft it, we're going to draft a letter of Thompson in support of this second grant. And the grant has, if anybody wants to see all the different parts of it, but the only question I had is you've got an event in there, and I don't know who's going to plan this event as part of this grant. So, I mean, some of the things in the grant is money for doing the bylaws, nonprofit formation, a special event, which she has a promotion with Connecticut Latino Outdoors. The website, having with a coordinator from DEP. So, all right, so I was just going to say is that the two main things that we are on our agenda have been talking about for years are some of the things that this task force will put in place, and we shouldn't jump ahead of them. And one is the wayfinding of all the signage. And the second one is getting a written agreement with Connecticut DEP of who's responsible for what. Now, some of the towns have that already. I have requested to see those so that we can draft something for Thompson. It would be nice if every town had the same agreement, but I don't think that's going to happen. So anyway, it's important that this task force is formed, or all the work of the last is just going to fizzle out.
Well, it won't totally. fizzle.
Well,
I mean, the trail is being developed regardless of having the 12-town task force, but it certainly would be developed in a more orderly and effective fashion. And the maintenance issues would be much easier to resolve if we had that. And I know that's Jean's goal, and
Yeah.
she's
she said she'd do some
working
volunteer.
frantically
Right,
to
she's-
bring this in before she retired.
So, and one other thing I wanted to mention is that somebody at one of the meetings asked for. And I don't know if we can do this before all the wayfinding, all the signage gets consistent from one town to the next, but somebody asked, couldn't we somehow do something temporary between Putnam and Thompson? So whether it's a little brochure giving them a bike route or a walking route to get there while there is still no connector trail. Or whether we want to throw this back at Putnam and say, can't you do something? But anyway, somebody said, it's crazy that people get to the end of the trail, and they can't get to Thompson. So that's one thing we should probably put on our goals, is somehow trying to accomplish something temporary for that, because this other stuff isn't gonna happen tomorrow.
So it's
When-
just in
When
terms
is
of.
the Zoom meeting? The Zoom meeting for the 12th?
Monday,
Monday?
yeah, but that's for the people who are gonna like be the town representatives.
Right, so it's smaller than
It's
that
not
big
the-
brainstorming meeting that we had before.
Thanks.
I don't even know if I have the Zoom link yet.
No, it didn't come through yet.
Okay, good, it's not just me. It's just some minor possible potential reducing of that gap, and it's only potential at this point. There is a private developer who owns a parcel on Azad that is almost certainly going to be developed as a multifamily housing. And apparently there are some existing trails back there that do connect at some point to the airline trail, to the Mechanicsville trailhead. And I think I think it's the private parcel, and then it seemed like on the concept plan that I saw that it was town-owned parcels back there. So I need to look into that further, but I mentioned to that potential applicant that it would sure be nice if, as a part of that, they showed the development of those trails. So that would come out very close to where the water treatment plant is. So again, it would reduce the size of that gap, wouldn't eliminate it, but it would get it closer.
But we'd still have to mitigate Route 12.
On the, no, not on the
No,
road, on the other
But
side.
there is already airline trail that goes all the way to the Mechanicsville parking lot.
Right, so this is, it would
Beyond
be
that?
beyond the
Okay.
Mechanicsville parking lot, a little bit closer to where the water treatment plant is.
Correct. You still have to get over the top of Route 12.
Right, so it doesn't close the gap, but it reduces the gap.
Yeah, I looked at that area and I see it as problematical because of it's not a easy, straight, empty railroad right of way. It's got other issues over there.
Well, Putnam is still actively working on that too. I believe they did submit a grant. And I either sent them a letter of support. Oh, no, it wasn't that I sent them a letter of
I did,
support.
I did.
You did, but I contributed part of my staff time as in-kind match. Because that was submitted as a partnership with us as the subordinate partner by far, is essentially when they're ready and need help from me, yes, call on me and count some of my hours. So I don't know what the notification period is on that grant or how much they asked for, but I think it was a lot.
Yeah, I think it was a lot, and.
There are some interesting trails down in at the end of Osgood. That's down towards the French River. But I don't know how they lend themselves into the airline trail specifically. More like for what's happening up by Bull Hill and over in Putnam or Pomfret at the bike park. But I don't know for sure who even owns all that property, if it's Army Corps or not. But it's quickly trails off the back end of what you're talking about.
I'll just throw out that Delphi Berry is retired. And
Yeah.
our connection with Putnam is a little weaker than it was, but we have to.
No, I've got a good connection with Delta's replacement,
Yeah.
which is Carly.
I was speaking to her at the meeting. We were,
She's
she seems
fantastic.
really good, really
Okay,
good.
great. What's her name?
Carly, I can't,
All right.
not DeLeon.
I think I have it.
Well,
I can't remember her last name.
I think it's all right, because I saw an email from Delta saying.
Yeah.
I'm retired, so that must be the name she gave me.
Carly Thompson.
No,
No, that's what I have
So-
Carly down as for.
It's okay.
Begins with-
Brian.
Oh, that's different. That's my Hershey rep from my old days. Okay. Carly DeLuca. That's it.
DeLuca, thank you.
Carly DeLuca, her email's carly.deluca@Putnam, Connecticut. .us. .mct.us.
Okay, so as far as spring maintenance, it's too early, to talk about it in April. When John's here and. But I will say that somebody told me, and I'm not talking about the Wyndham Land Trust Bull Hill, but the Bull Hill around the soccer field. Had some trees and branches down, somebody told me, so that at some point needs a cleanup.
Yeah, we did all the trees on the airline trail. John and his buddy and Charlie and me, and we cleaned that up after those storms. I don't know if anything happened this past weekend.
Huh, probably. I haven't seen any notes about it.
There's nothing visible from Lowell Davis, but that's only a small area that I could see.
Okay, so now Bull
Bull
Hill Wyndham Land Trust.
Yes.
Mike,
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Michael.
Charlie, I gotta ask you, sorry for this side question, but I've signed up for the Natchog Epic now, and I never look at maps ahead of time. And now you're telling me it's going over Bull Hill.
It might. That's an attractive hill to this group, but they won't show the route, the actual route in advance.
Okay, if you have a contact, could you email it to me? Because
Oh, sure.
that's all private. I mean, that's Wyndham Land Trust owns a lot of that road.
Oh,
And if somebody's running an event where they're charging money, we need
I
a
don't
legal.
think they're well, yeah, maybe they are charging a registration fee.
They are charging a registration.
They
fee.
most certainly are charging a registration fee.
Yes, they are. I stopped because I'm not charging any.
So anyway, I just want, I need to at least see an insurance certificate or something. Because,
Okay, fine.
all right, anyway,
Michael, I can help you with that too. I can put you directly in touch with them as well.
that'd be great. Would it be easier if you let me share my screen and I can show?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
All right. Hang on, can you see my screen at all yet?
Not yet.
Hang on, minimize this again.
Share screen.
Working on it. It's not showing. There it is. How come it's not sharing? Sorry, how's that?
Now it's coming up. There we
Yeah,
go.
There you go.
All right, sorry about that. All right, folks, this is let me back it up a little bit. There we go. This is a overhead view of the southern part of Bull Hill. You can see the soccer fields for reference. You can see Messier Road, the Blaine Bridge area is right here in Bull Hill Road. The paved part of Bull Hill Road from Thompson comes up this way. We have an existing parking lot on the Woodstock side right here. It's a very difficult dirt road to get to, but it has parking, and this between the P and the proposed parking, is not really passable, unless you have a Jeep or something. The reason we're looking at putting in a proposed parking on the eastern side of Bull Hill is that, frankly, we've heard from a lot of members that are Thompson residents that they have to drive all the way around this land, which is around 3,000 to 4,000 acres. So it takes a while, and they'd much rather just come up from the Thompson side and park there. The residents on Bull Hill Road, I don't think appreciate the fact that people would be parking in front of their houses and leaving cars there while they hike up on Bull Hill. So from a pure access standpoint, we need a parking lot on the east side. I think it'll also help for people that have difficulties getting around, because again, the Woodstock access is very rough. We looked at trying to leverage our soccer fields down here, but you can see that there's no green parcels, which is the ones we own, that connecting to it. And despite our best efforts, we've been unable to acquire the key parcels there. It would be wonderful if we could, because there's trails that go right from the soccer fields right up to the overlook, which is right over here, which would be from the property. But so to make a long story short, we have the concept of a parking lot here on the eastern side of Bull Hill, and here's the concept. Let me see if I can spin it around. There you go. This is on the right-hand side of this design. You can see the sort of Bull Hill Road. For those who've gone up it, the pavement goes to about here, and then it stops and it turns into dirt and gravel and ruts and everything else. So we're proposing putting in a parking right at the end of the pavement, and it would be a simple dirt parking lot, nothing extravagant. In fact, I think I think I showed this to Valerie and other Bay State trail riders folks at one time, this concept. So the reason I'm bringing this up to the Trails Committee is we're going to be applying for a grant with a March 1st deadline. Sorry about the timeline. And it would be wonderful if the committee could find a way to get us a letter of recommendation. Again, stressing the improved access is really what the purpose of this activity is. And the second thing is, as you can see that Janet Blanchett and JD are very helpful here, and they're going to be continuing to help us. But we've been unable to find a contractor or an excavator that is interested in a job this small.
Huh.
I've spoken to Earthworks and Waldo, and they're all busy doing septic systems and other things nowadays, and that's not all that big a deal for them. So if anybody on the committee knows of someone that would be interested in something like this, please let me know.
So a thought that occurs to me, Michael, if we are, well, regardless of whether we're successful with our next application to recreational trails, the work that we're going to be doing at the turntable on the airline trail
Yes.
will involve grading, tree clearing and grading. So it's possible that we could direct that same contractor to you. I mean, it's not money coming from the same organizations, but if it's a twofer in the same town, that might work out for them.
Sure, that'd be great.
All right, so I will, once we're at that point, I'll direct those people to you as well.
This is
Awesome.
a paid thing, or they're now looking for volunteers to clear it. They're paying
Well,
the contractor.
I think there's,
For the airline trail?
No, for
For this?
yeah,
I think they're probably looking for a professional, which means they'd have to pay
yeah,
them.
yeah, okay.
yeah, it's not likely we're gonna get this donated. Now, from a volunteer standpoint, I'm certainly, I'm reasonably handy with a chainsaw and that type of work. So we might have a clearing day, because this was a field 5 years ago when we bought it. So there's, it's got some, you know, saplings and a bunch of things that have to be cleared out. So, but nothing major.
Just trash trees?
A little bigger than trees, but not real trees. They're in between. So, but it wouldn't take that much. I think a couple of days worth of a few guys or others that probably clear it up pretty good. So it's really, we just need the excavators and the trucks to bring in the gravel. So, so that was Bull Hill. Any questions on what we're trying to do there? And
So just for everybody here, all three of the grants we're talking about
Not the same.
are the same grant program. Which, by the way, I don't think it's a bad thing for everybody to be cross-pollinating and supporting each other's projects. I think it shows, you know, continuity and synergy. Whether it means not all projects get fully funded, I can't say. They were definitely oversubscribed last year with applications. But I think their impulse is to be as generous as they can. So we all support each other when we support each other.
right.
Michael, I would just say, if you want to send me an email with some of the key words and points you want in the grant support letter.
That was Karen? I can't see.
Yeah,
that.
Karen.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that was Karen, and you can do the same for me as well, Michael, and this is Tira.
Yep.
Because I can refer to the fact that we've talked about Bull Hill in our plan of conservation and development as an area that we'd like to see get more use, yada, yada. So it's different perspectives.
Understood. Thank you.
Question for point of clarification, and that is, did the soccer field get transferred to Wyndham Land Trust along with other town property, or is that still town property?
No, that's still town property.
Right.
Okay. Does anybody use that?
Well, they can't use it right now because it's mostly underwater.
Yeah, that's what I've always heard. It's mostly underwater.
There's a drainage system up there that apparently the institutional knowledge on how to operate it is gone. So it's just
Which is why we want to take action before the 12-town task force people leave. We want to make sure that we cover the gap on that and don't lose all the institutional knowledge.
Okay, switching over to the second project, which is a new project. I don't think anybody has heard in the town has heard about this because it's hot off the presses. We're let me back this up a little bit too. We have an opportunity to acquire through purchase a 272-acre parcel of land in the aquatic section of Thompson. For reference point, this is the aquatic reservoir. This right, if you can see my arrow, it's Aquatic State Park. And this yellow part was the part we'd be acquiring. This up here is Aquatic State Forest. And down below here, this is Wyndham Land Trust's LeClaire Preserve. This is the Wyndham Land Trust's Tamla Preserve. And this big chunk here is owned by Mike Stanley, who's a very good friend of the land trust at this point. But so this piece we consider very critical. The reasons we say that is overall, this part that's colored in adds up to about 15,000 acres of undeveloped land. And we see this piece here that we're going to be acquiring as a critical connector. This part that's hatched right here is owned by the Rhode Island Boy Scouts, and we have no idea what their future holds. They have financial troubles. That's why we can pick up this piece. I have no idea whether a developer is going to get to them or not. So we're trying to create continuity from basically Douglas State Forest through Buck Hill Management to Aquatic State Forest, to our new property, the Wyndham Land Trust, and ultimately to George Washington State Park in Rhode Island. That by itself, from a strategic standpoint, makes this pretty attractive to us. But the other part about it that which overlaps with the Trails Committee is this area is it's an interesting area. I live on Buck Hill Road, so I know this area intimately. I've been bike riding through here since 1986. Geez, I'm showing my age. But anyway, it has a network of trails. Some are Jeep trails, some are four-wheeler trails, some are hiking trails. It's a mix of everything. But to give you a reference point, for those who know Aquatic State Park, this is this Aquatic State Park's red trail over here. This right here is our LeClaire Preserve, and we have a parking lot here. And the Trails Committee at one time had a network or a series of trails on our LeClaire Preserve that once the bridge got washed out by the Blackmore Brook, they've become abandoned and neglected. So we want to reestablish that parking area and the hiking in the LeClaire area. We want to connect to some of these existing roads, and let's call them cart paths. They're really not roads. There's some cool old historic farm sites, cellar holes, hand dug wells, animal pens, et cetera, et cetera. There's actually 3 of them on this site, on this parcel. And then you see there's a network of other trails. So that basically go all over the place. So we'd have parking at Aquatic State Park, the existing parking lot there. If you look across from the parking lot, you'll see there's a trail that goes right out. That's this one. Brings you right into the park or into this preserve area that we're hoping to buy. There's a parking lot across from the Rhode Island Boy Scout entrance in Rhode Island that you can get to. It's off of Buck Hill Road. And then there's a parking at LeClaire. So it should have good access. And really what I'm reaching out to the Trails Committee is I'd like to have somebody, a volunteer from the board or the committee that would want to work with me and the rest of our team to sort of figure out which trails we want to emphasize, which ones we don't, and how we might go about drawing attention to it as we get further along to get some public support. And then secondly, we are going to be applying for a USDA community forest grant. And again, part of that is community participation, community benefits. So we're working on some of that language. But again, having a nice set of public access trails in the eastern side of the state, or excuse me, eastern side of Thompson that connects to many, many, many acres of land seems like a pretty attractive resource.
What exactly would you be applying for the community forest grant? What are the activities that you'd be looking to fund?
Oh, they actually, that grant funds land acquisition as well as trail building, kiosks and educational stuff. It's pretty all encompassing. So our plan was to use to try to get about half of they have a 50% match. So we're going to get half of the required funds to purchase this, hopefully through that grant. We already have a line on the other half. So we should have that in our bank account before we apply, which will help add credibility to the application. And then, of course, probably later this spring, we'd be coming back around for another letter of support from everybody.
For this one?
For this one as well, yeah.
What's the deadline on that one?
It's funny you ask. I'm laughing because it's a federal grant program, and as explained to me, is they can't know when the money's going to be available until the federal budget's passed. So who knows when that's going to be?
So it probably means that they'll know by the end of June. But I've actually applied to similar grants through USDA or started to apply to and then abandoned them because they get so weird. Yeah, they'll know how much money they have close to the end of the state fiscal year. I don't know why it would be the state fiscal year and not the federal fiscal year, which is the 30th of September. But they'll want to have all of their proposals in hand by, I can almost guarantee you this is what it's going to be. They'll want to have all their proposals in hand by the end of June, but it probably won't be until May that they have an idea how much funding is in that pot.
Right. Yeah. Just the general recommendation we got is to be prepared to submit in May. That might be a little early, but that's what our goal is.
I just have, this is Karen, I just have a couple of questions and a couple of comments. Al Landry originally blocked out the trail there, and I don't know if you want to work with him on the Leclerc Trail. But when we were using the trail there, as you leave the Leclerc parking lot and you go up the left dotted line, that we had that looping around. And we never knew, we thought it abutted the Boy Scout land, but that doesn't look like what the map has. There's a white block on the other map that has it. Oh, no, I see. All right, so Leclerc abuts the Boy Scout land, and it's not clear up there where the line is. But the other thing is, we walked from the red trail, and just seemed like a few feet over a rise, we were able to connect to that left branch of the Leclerc Trail. So, and I had talked to Matt Quinn, I think, at Aquatic State Park, but we never got out there trying to find out from him if he would allow the access from the red trail to Leclerc. So that's something to go back and look at again.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of trails there. I didn't map them all. And, you know, it's fortunate or unfortunate that there's been, over the many years, there's been, you know, again, kids and four-wheelers and whatever out there. So it really, I look at it almost like a blank canvas. We can do a lot. And we can try to, I was hoping to highlight some of the natural beauty and resources of the area, because there's, it's not even mapped here, but there's another beaver pond halfway down on Blackmore Brook that's really kind of cool and pristine. Have a nice overlook over the top of it would be cool. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I can reach out to Al. I don't know how active Al is nowadays on this kind of stuff, but
well, he's not active on the Trails Committee, but he's still out there.
okay.
He's hiking all the time, I think, so.
Sure.
Hey, Mike, this is Becky.
Yeah.
If a letter of support from a trail organization would help you, we would be happy to do that.
Thanks, Becky. Yes, that would be very helpful as well.
Okay.
I have your email, so I'll send you a note.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
But
Yeah.
yes, somebody from Trails Committee will work with you. We don't know who yet, but yeah.
Yeah, just let me know.
Definitely.
We have time. This one's not as urgent as the other one, the March 1st deadline. But so anyway, this that we have a lot going on in Thompson right now. And as well as you do too. This is the first time I've seen the plans for the airline trail area. That's a big project.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, so okay, I will send notes to Karen and Tira, as well as Becky, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Have a good night.
Okay, anything else on trail updates? We're getting late. Next would be the 2023 goals. Do we want to discuss this at this point or table it
Well,
till the next
we
meeting?
can-
Because that can be extensive.
I know, I was gonna say, really what I wanted to say tonight is make your wish list.
Okay, And we'll
And
discuss
that
it.
we should, in April, come in and brainstorm, all the possibilities, but the bike repair station is still on our list of one of the things, but we've got a lot of stuff on our list already.
and related to that, and we talked about it is for everyone on the call, is that we will, knock on wood, have more income in the future, but we also have to plan how we want to spend that. I mean, there might be things that Tara has planned that she needs contributions for matching funds, things like that. We don't want to just be, putting the money into the wrong projects. So we want to be a little more
Well, I wouldn't worry about too much
involved with
coming
what
out
we
of
want to do.
my office because Trainwreck Park is going to take up all of my energy for trails for quite some time, except for whatever I do with like ZMAP reprints, right?
Yeah,
That's my extent of involvement with doing things for trails. You don't need to worry about any new projects coming out of my office.
No,
for that.
but the on the ground stuff. That we want to do, like, we've talked about a little bridge or cleaning up more around the culvert area, make that trail better. So all the little infrastructure things that you may have come across when you're out there that we.
benches,
Benches.
never done, more mounting blocks for horse riding, and besides the two we have, these are things we've talked about for the 5 or 6 years I've been on the committee, but we've never really had the funding. So. And now we have new input.
Right, with new eyes and new feet.
Okay, so we're gonna work on that for next meeting and talk about that some more. Social media, I don't think we have a whole lot to talk about unless there's any more updates on the Z-fold maps.
Hebron is joining the partnership.
Oh,
So I'm going back and forth with Quinn and Harry and the tourism district to get Hebron feathered in, but I guess that at the town level, they just agreed to buy in. So EDC, the ERTD is going to contribute around $9,000, a little over $9,000 to a reprint. So the towns that want to buy in for a reprint, which are Thompson, Pomfret, Wyndham, Columbia, East Hampton, and now Hebron as a brand new partner are each gonna only have to buy in for $1,000 each, as opposed to the $3,000 each it would be to do a straight reprint. But like everything else, it's crawling at a glacial pace while the people who need updates and design work are working on that. So, but that money's got to be spent by the end of the state fiscal year, June 30th. So I'd like to have that stuff sent off to the printer by March. I have no idea if that's reasonable or not. It's going to be dictated by how quickly the people who need design updates and the brand new design partner get through their stuff.
Design updates include any changes on the map, any changes on key businesses that are focused on there, or
Yes. Yes, and we have not opted to make any updates to ours, but if anybody wants to change that, send me that information fast. I did not budget any money for us, meaning Thompson, to do redesign.
Okay, I just want to.
that's what I remembered.
I think Gene Davis on the 12-Town Task Force and that website, though, wanted new businesses that we want to add. So if there's stuff that's not in these, but we want to add it, I think we have to do that right away. But she
To
didn't.
Jean.
Yeah, but she didn't send the prototype website. She said she was going to, and
All
I
right, so
didn't
that's
get
something
it.
we'll have to bring up on Monday.
With EDC and stuff also, right, bring it up on Monday, but also what other businesses that are not in here do we want to get on the website? There are 6 on there now, but I don't have it to see which ones.
Right, okay. All right, so that actually times out well, because Wednesday is a Thompson Business Association meeting, which I do attend now. Monday will be there, and then next Wednesday, after that meeting, it'll be EDC, so we can ask that question 3 times in a row, essentially,
Okay.
and see if there's anything that we've missed. Okay. Those 3 meetings will prompt the question one after the other.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Reports from neighboring towns. We've already kind of talked about Putnam. Anything else from our Zoom folks about neighboring towns? Trail census, Charlie?
The unit's working and the data's being collected. I read the report, but I don't remember the details. I may have posted it on Facebook on the one page, Quiet Corner Bike and Ped Advocacy, which was started up for me by a guy in Putnam. But I don't have the report to give you numbers. My impression is that it's still strong usage, but maybe not at the same peak numbers that we saw when people were most trying to come to terms with the pandemic and staying out of crowds. It's up, but it's not as high as I remember it.
Okay. Equipment, tool status, maintenance. As far as I know, we don't have anything new to discuss there. We
Right, I
approved
think
our
I-
funding.
Wasn't there something? Oh, there was something that we talked about getting. It's not a very expensive tool, but it's called a PV. And what you do with that is you can turn a whole log over.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Long handled tool.
Chris has
Um,
those.
when we were out there doing some work in January, we realized that that kind of tool would make it safer and easier for us. Probably 2 of them, but we've already covered that with the setting aside 300 for tools and projects and things. Wouldn't you believe?
How much do you think it costs?
Yeah, I don't know. They're long wooden handles with a steel jaw on the end of it. I have no idea, but I can't imagine them being more than $100. Let me
As
see
in
if I
what?
can find one.
Tara's looking it up. Oh, she's got them.
Between $40 and $90
Yeah. So we should be able to get 2
new.
with tax. We don't have to pay tax, 2 for like $200. And I don't know, would that diminish what we just agreed to set aside, or do we just say, well, that's part of the cost of doing business?
We could
We
put
need
some
that.
money for that if we need it, right?
Do we need to have a separate motion to purchase these, or are they within the purview?
We
of
said
what-
expendables, so maybe we should have a separate
Yeah.
motion. All right.
Okay, then I make a motion that we allocate up to $200 to purchase 2 PV units that we can use while we're doing our tree removal.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Who's buying them?
Probably John will pick them up. He's the one that mentioned them. Oh, it was his friend that mentioned them. But we all agreed at the time that it makes sense to acquire them. And I think that the fire
$74 at Killingly Lowe's.
the fire department has a lead on equipment, so I don't know for sure.
I don't know if he's fading out there.
Okay,
Okay, any new agenda items for future meetings?
well, always get them to me like a week ahead. Okay,
Anything else that needs to be covered before we adjourn? Next business meeting date is April 3rd.
any questions from the new gallery?
Nope.
No, just taking it all in.
Afterwards, well, you want me to like be able to give people your phone number that I have on your letter and stuff?
Yeah,
Just for contact and
Yeah, sure.
people can text you for like work parties and stuff?
Sure, text,
Okay.
email. all
Okay.
that.
John usually organizes that. John and Paul handle most of the equipment. Charlie and I usually go to help and
Well,
John,
like
it
I
depends
said,
on
like
the
I
schedule.
said, Brian and John are the only ones authorized to drag the trailer around.
Well, he drives it around. I'd probably be dragging it.
I think it's also fair to say that if new members have new ideas for projects, they should not be shy about sharing them because we might not have seen it.
Yeah, we've been together a long time. We need new input.
Fresh eyes.
I'll do something else.
All right, so we are adjourning at 8:40 PM.
I'm gonna wait. Oh.
Oh.
Good night.
No,